wanted to just recap some of the things I read for October. So I did a video about what I wanted to read and pretty much got all that done and then some. So I like watching people's videos where they just review what they've read for the month. So I just wanted to give it a try. The first thing I read was The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. I wasn't sure if this was a horror novel or a thriller, and it's a little bit of both, for sure. It's mostly, I would say, kind of a thriller novel, but there are some horror elements, and in particular, it has one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever read in a book. It's one of the most messed up things I've ever read. It involves a child, so just be careful of that if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed the book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't think it's quite a 5-star book. One thing that definitely threw me off is there is a lot of Spanish in this book. So if you don't speak Spanish, or if you're not down to at least try, there's a lot of Spanish. I'm talking like every page has a sentence in Spanish. So I'm trying to learn Spanish, so it didn't bother me too much, but even then, when I want to learn Spanish, it was still jarring how much there was. So, little disclaimer there. But the story itself was great, and the horror elements were great as well. And then the next thing I read, I actually did a video about this already. It was Deceased. So, I have the whole Deceased set right here behind me. This was really fun. I love the Elseworlds tales. And there's a whole video you could check out about why these books are so fun. So you'll probably notice a theme. A lot of times I will hop between reading a novel and reading a comic or a graphic novel. So after that, I actually read Gerald's Game. I'm going through all the Stephen King books in chronological order. This is where I'm at so far. I've jumped a few ahead. I've read some of the ones out of order, like Revival I've read already. But this was my first time reading Gerald's Game, and yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed the first half of it, and the second half kind of dragged for me. I think I gave this one 4 stars as well. But I know some people give it 5 stars, some people give it 2. It really just depends. I've seen the movie as well, and it's good. The book, there's definitely the scene with the space cowboy. If you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about, where he first appears, and it's pretty scary. That was definitely the scariest moment of the book. After Gerald's Game, I jumped over to the Lock and Key. I also have a video about this. So Lock and Key is one of my favorite series, and I had never read The Golden Age. So took care of that. Really glad I did. Wish I hadn't waited so long, because this was great. There's a whole video about this as well, if you want to check it out. This was 5 stars for sure. I think that was my first 5-star book this month. After that came another 5-star book for me. It was Horns by Joe Hill. So whenever I'm reading The Devil Take You Home or Gerald's Game, one of the things I really think about when I'm reading is, do I want to put the book down and do something else? Do I want to stop reading? Or do I want to just keep reading? Horns was one of these books where I just couldn't put it down. I just wanted to keep reading it. And that says a lot to me about my enjoyment. The story was great. The opening was just enthralling. I just want to know what the heck was going on. And this was one of those books that I just could not put down. It was great. It didn't maybe live up to that same high the whole way through, but I still gave it 5 stars because I enjoyed it so much. Gideon Falls. So I read the first deluxe, which is right here beside me. I read that last year. And then this came out, and I just waited to read it. I don't think I missed too much for waiting so long, but this is a complicated story. It's a little weird. It's definitely out there. I would say this book is better, not maybe for the story as much as for the art. The art is insane in this book. I mean, I won't flip too much of it, but there is some absolutely wild stuff that goes on with the artwork in this book. Of course, I'm not going to find anything that sticks out by just flipping through it, but this book is crazy. There's some really wild concepts going on, and just the way Sorrentino does the paneling and everything in this book is just crazy. It's a lot of fun to follow, and it's just a fast read. You can read this in one sitting easily, even though it's pretty thick, I guess. I mean, I think I read this in an evening and then a morning, pretty much. I started this gigantic Aliens tome. I read the first arc of it, and I knew I wouldn't get much further, so I stopped and I actually read the newest Alien series, The Bloodlines, trade paperback. I think this was a gift from somebody. I don't normally collect trades, but this was good too. And speaking of art, man, the art in this thing is pretty awesome as well. This is like a take on sort of a queen alien, but different than you've seen in the movies. This is from like the very first page here, so this isn't really a spoiler, but there she is right there. And yeah, this is very gruesome, very bloody, very violent, very fun. But the last thing I read, and I timed this to where I was reading it on Halloween and finished it that night, was The Exorcist. Always wanted to read it. Finally pulled the trigger, and I'm glad I did. I enjoy this. This was another one of those books that I just did not want to put down. The writing was really well done. I have his next book after this, Legion, the sequel to this. Not maybe his next book that he wrote after this, but the sequel to this. And I'll probably read it next year. I'll probably wait till next year and read it, but I really like The Exorcist 3, which is what that's based on, pretty sure. This was great. I mean, it pretty much is just like the movie. It is pretty much beat for beat the movie. This was a bit longer. It was almost 400 pages, but it went fast. It went really fast. And I tried when I was reading it to just imagine that I'm in the day and age where this came out. Was it the 70s? And man, I bet it really freaked people out. But I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I got this gigantic stack of books that I read this year. So on to November. I'd love to know if you've read any of these or if you plan to. Thanks for watching.